Um, let's see. We're gonna be talking about is religion good for society? TikTok in 3, 2, 1. What up, folks? Once again, it is indeed your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. Obviously, you have yet another day of war taking place in the Middle East. We're talking about indeed the war between Israel and the Palestinian people. We're talking about Hamas, a radical faction of the Palestinian people, but the entire war effort is going to be bestowed upon all of those folks. But what I'm going to be asking, because make no mistake about it, when you talk about the Palestinian people and the Israelis, essentially you're talking about Jewish versus Muslim, both being religions. Both sides are heavily persecuted throughout the world for what they believe in. We all know the history of the Jewish people. Probably 1940s Germany comes to mind. But they were persecuted before that. Some would even bring up Jesus Christ. However, in this country, due to our own political leanings, you don't hear as much about the persecution of Muslims. But make no mistake about it, there's a host of that as well. So what we're going to be asking today is a simple question. Do you believe society in general, not just talking about in the Middle East, not just talking about in the United States, but there's a host of examples for this. Do you believe society might actually be better off without religion? I understand this could certainly be triggering. This could certainly be insulting to some. We got a lot of deeply devoted folks that tune in. But I want to ask this because the entire conflict going on in the Middle East is indeed religious based. It's basically Muslims versus Jewish people. Or in some might even argue Christians versus believers of Allah. Because if the war spreads, and other countries get involved, it's going to be a lot of Christian countries siding with the Jewish people and a lot of believers in Allah siding with those from Palestine, or the Palestinians. So we have to ask that question. Do you believe society would be better off without religion? I'm willing to hear your side of the argument. Maybe I'm getting it completely wrong, which is exactly what David Haley in the comments is alluding to. You're getting it wrong, brother. Elaborate. So we're going to start it out. That's what I want to ask. The program is always will remain MAGA friendly. MAGA are my preferred guests, and nevertheless, liberals are welcome as well. We don't block, ban, or censor anyone for their commentary. So understand when you do comment, you don't have to worry about the host limiting, blocking, banning, throwing moderators at you, and none of that. We don't do that here. We believe in free speech. So looking at the comments, and the Native Americans against America because of religion. David Haley, I don't know if the Native Americans are against America because of religion. I mean, let's just take religion out of it. The folks that settled in this country have never been pro-Native. They had a plan in place from day one, talking about as far back as Christopher Columbus, because there are reports that he even wrote in his journal, talking about Christopher Columbus, upon meeting the natives and exchanging goods between two peoples. The natives gave Christopher Columbus and his party food from this region, and Christopher Columbus gave them some sort of sword or shiny metal instrument. The Native Americans did not know what it was and indeed cut their hand on the weapon. And Christopher Columbus wrote in his journal, these people are so ignorant towards weaponry that with a few armed men, we could take over this whole place. You can look that up. Now, I'm paraphrasing. That's not an exact quote, but that is the gist of it. That Christopher Columbus wrote in his own journal that with a few armed men, these folks are so ignorant to weaponry, we could take over this whole place. Ultimately, that's obviously what happened. Now, looking in the comments, I love this guy. Finally came around. He used to be a Biden supporter. Drew, we'll talk. Israeli Palestine Israeli Palestinians was always about war. It's a complicated situation. We should stay out of it. Well, it's about war, but war based on what? You don't think there's any religious backing, religious overtones in regards to why they are constantly at odds? Or why other countries like Iran and folks join the Palestinian side and America and other Western countries join the Israeli side? You don't see any religious overtones to it at all? By the way, tap the screen, get your boy up to 5,000. You know what I always ask. I do appreciate you tuning in. So that's the question we're asking, because you see what's going on over there. Do you believe society may actually benefit if we got away from religion? Now, I'm going to use the United States also as an example. In this country, we've come a long way. Some could argue that there's still some oppression, racism is still a thing, but make no mistake about it, in 2023, this country is a lot more freer and less oppressive than it was in 1923 or 1823 or even before that. And the further back you go in American history, one thing becomes apparent. The country was more religious based, more deeply devoted in its Christianity than it is now. Some would argue that atheism is the fastest growing religion, if you can call it that, in this country. More and more of the younger crowd is not believing at all. And as I stated, the oppression in America is getting less and less. African Americans, women, the LGBT community, they're all gaining significantly. But when you go back in time where everybody in the country believed in Jesus Christ as our Savior, there was far more oppression. So as America is losing its grip on religion, we also seem to be losing our grip on oppression. Are they not correlated? Let me know in the comments. Now, we're going to go straight to the box. I want to find out where I'm getting this wrong. Jewel, 1, 2, 3, 1. Good afternoon, Jewel. We're asking that question if the TikTok gods let you through. There you go, Jewel. Good afternoon.
Hi, Handsome. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. So, am I getting it wrong in asking that question? Is religion?
I think you're getting it wrong. Number one, I don't think the country is less religious than it was. I just think the internet and has given us or revealed people's true identities to us, if that makes sense.
Well, let me ask you. So you believe America in 2023 is equally as religious as we were throughout our history? You don't think religion has been lost in this country?
It's really hard to assign a numerical value to it. But I will say this: use the alphabet community. I don't think that they didn't exist, 50, 100 years ago. I think they just are emboldened to be, more transparent in their beliefs.
Why? What made them more transparent in 2023 than they used to be?
I don't know. I think it's the internet. I think communication is easier now, and the world's become smaller. I think like-minded people, it's easier for them to gather. I just think it's easier to gravitate to people that think and believe and act like you in 2023 than it was in, 1923 or 1823. I just think, go ahead.
Here's where I have a pushback. Now, when I was a child growing up in the 70s and 80s, just about everybody went to church. You didn't have a choice. Your parents took you to church on Sunday. That's not happening anywhere near as much in 2023 as it did in 1983.
I'll give you a real life example. I'm not a very old man, but I'm 40.
I don't consider myself a very old man either. But go ahead.
Saying that out loud, I feel more and more old, and I see more and more gray hairs every day. But I'll give you a quick example or a quick story.
Sure.
I grew up in a Bible Belt, and when I was about 20, right after college, I got my first real job in the banking industry in Connecticut. I'm from the Bible Belt, so I moved to Connecticut. This is like pretty much an independent state at that time.
Okay.
My first week at this job at this bank, you know how the job gossip goes around and you're kind of introduced to the people. They said that this young lady was an atheist. She didn't believe in God. Now, at 23 years old, this was, this was like 2003, early 2000s. I had never met an atheist in my life. This is before the iPhone. I don't know if it seems weird to say that out loud. I was only 20 years, about
Well,
20 years ago.
but just to interrupt, just like with the LGBT community, you would have been shamed. You would have been shamed for coming out as an atheist 20 or 30 years ago.
Sure, 100%. But I want to put this into context and how, this is roughly 2 decades ago. This hasn't been very long ago. But before I met that young lady, if you had asked me what an atheist was, I would have said somebody that worshiped the devil. I would have crossed the street, in my mind, I think I'm early 20 years old, roughly. I had a caricature of a devil worshiper as an atheist. Those were two things were synonymous.
Wow.
I wouldn't have, I was taught that, hey, if you're not Christian, and you didn't believe in something, that you were on the other side.
You were a bad person.
Pretty much. And let me tell you.
Damaged goods.
Right. This person taught me pretty much everything. This person was an amazing human being. They were raised Christian. At some point, they lost their faith and became an atheist. I hear your story. It's kind of similar to your story, too, I believe.
Yeah, but listening to what you're saying kind of makes the point I was talking about, that religion is divisive. If your religion is teaching you that people that do not have the same belief as you are demons and damaged goods, how does that work with society? How is that good for society?
I think, your default needs to be curiosity. What I was going to go on to say is, as I met this person, as we grew, I had finished my undergrad degree in finance, and she was about to finish hers. I eventually learned about the job from her, helped her study and get to her undergrad degree, and we became fast friends, and almost 20 years later, we're still friends. So what I'm saying is, although religion, there are going to be things that separate us. There are going to be differences, and I think it's something that we can extract.
Do you think religion separates us, though?
Do I think? I think, oddly enough, today in 2023, I think if you were a Republican and somebody said they were a Democrat, it would be worse than if you were a Christian and they said they were atheists. I think difference of political views are way higher on the shelf.
I gotta move it on, but before I do, let me ask you this one last question. Which one do you think America would have a bigger issue with? Let's say I'm a Republican, I'm a Trump supporter. Which one do you think I'd have more of a problem with? Voting for a Democratic president that's Christian, or voting for a different party president that is an atheist? Which one do you think would be the bigger problem?
If you allow me to answer, I will 100% say most people have a stronger difference in political views. I think more people would marry somebody that's a non-believer or an atheist, or just didn't have some type of connection to religion, than they would knowingly have a difference of political views with somebody. I think it's easier to marry somebody that didn't, I would say a Christian would easier marry a Buddhist or somebody from that, or a Muslim or something, somebody with a completely different religious background.
I don't know if I've ever talked to a Republican that is not Christian, a Republican that's Muslim, or a Jehovah's Witness. All of the Republicans have ever talked to a Christian, so I can't speak on it. But
I'm sure it's true. But again, I just think, and this is just from America, I think we have put political views so high up on a pedestal where it's almost higher than religion to us. It is almost priority, especially in those people that are really hard Trump supporters or people that go to rallies like that. I think there's a growing segment of the population that just prioritizes political views. I've heard so many people say, if you aren't Democrat, then you're something negative, or if you are a Republican, you're something negative.
Yeah,
and I don't
I've heard it
believe that
too.
as much
I've
when it
heard it.
comes to
Yeah,
religion.
I don't disagree. I've heard the same. But I got to move it on, Joe. Appreciate you coming in.
Great talking to you. I'm a big fan of your show, man.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Now, I will say this, being candid, I do agree with my last caller that politics in this country has made us incredibly divisive. However, I disagree with him in stating that the division between political parties is greater than the division in regards to religion. I believe that if you are a Republican at a Republican gathering running for office and you say I'm not a Christian, I'm a Muslim or I'm an atheist, you're done. You're done. They're not going to vote for you. I don't believe the Republican Party in particular. And I say this because I'll tell you about the Democratic Party in my humble opinion. But by the way, tap the screen, get your boy up to 15,000. I'll go straight back to the box, take the next caller. But I do believe the Republican Party is far more religious than the Democratic Party. I don't think there's anybody that disagrees with that. And the reason I say the Republican Party is far more religious is because the Republican Party is Christian-based, period. The Democratic Party has a hell of a lot of religious people in its grasp, but they're also far more diverse. There's a hell of a lot of Muslims and things like that that are in this country that also vote Democratic. So I do believe in the Republican circles, if you're running for president and you're not a Christian, you're done. It will cause you some resistance in the Democratic Party as well. But I think down the line, the Republican Party is not going to entertain anybody that does not believe in Christianity. It's far more deeply devoted to religion than the Democratic Party. But I disagree with my last caller in saying we're more divided on party than we are on religion. I think if you are not a Christian, you're going to have a hard time holding office in this country, certainly on the right, but even on the left. Remember the woman told John McCain back in 2007, for you folks who are old enough to remember, she wouldn't vote for Obama because he was a Muslim? Didn't say nothing about what he was running on. Didn't say nothing about where he was from or what he stood for. It was simply because he's Muslim. I'm not voting for him for that. And obviously, folks on the right knew that that was something worthy of disqualifying Obama because he became widely known in right-wing circles all over right-wing media that Obama was a Muslim. They were trying to paint him as a Muslim because they knew that would hurt his chances in this country. That was only in 2007, folks. Have we changed that much? Going back to the box. Appreciate you folks tapping the screen. Get your boy up to 15,000. Got a few hundred of you in here. It's always a pleasure. We'll continue moving on with Sight Beyond Sight, asking would society potentially be more harmonious, live in harmony, if we were less religious? Is religion harmful to us? And I'm asking because of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. That's religious based. Sight Beyond Sight, good afternoon.
What's up, my good brother? How are you?
I'm doing good. So what do you think? You think religion is causing us problems or giving us unity?
I don't think it's religion itself. I think it's interpretation of religion. And the reason I say that is because even in the Christian section of religion, you have different beliefs, whether you're Baptist, Presbyterian, or, even Catholicism or Catholic, right? So people are divided by that. But I agree with you that as a Republican or people in the Republican base, if you are a non-Christian, you might as well be an atheist because to them, there's no other religion outside of Christianity. And if you don't embrace that, then you cannot and will not represent them as a political candidate or leader.
Yeah, I had a guy this weekend, and I made it clear to you folks that because I'm a lover of politics, I went to an actual Trump rally on Sunday. And I had a guy look me dead in my face and tell me Trump was ordained by God to run this country. I mean, flat out. The only reason Trump was actually running for office is because God himself picked him. I had somebody tell me that to my face. So Now, when you say it's an interpretation of, well, I'm telling you, I'm not making it up. The guy told me that straight up to my face. Now, I
I
didn't.
believe you.
Yeah, I
I
didn't.
believe.
I did not push back in that line because I like to debate politics and things like that. But that was not the place to do it. Certainly, with a man saying something as strong and passionate as that. But so you don't believe religion is necessarily harming our unity. You believe it's the interpretation of religion. You went on mute site. Your device is on mute. All right. Well, I don't know what happened with them, but we'll keep it moving. They are centered on evangelical Christianity. Let me just say this, by the way. A hell of a lot of our laws and our beliefs, certainly on the right side of the aisle, Christian based. What is the biggest argument going on right now? The pro-life, pro-choice, the conversation, the fact that Roe v. Wade was reversed. You talk to the pro-life crowd, it's hard to have a conversation without religion coming up as a reason for why it's wrong. Same thing applies with the LGBT conversation. It's hard to have a conversation. Even when Obama legalized same-sex marriage in 2015, religion was stamped all over the conversation. Homosexuality is a sin by God. You can hear about Sodom and Gomorrah. The whole thing is religious based. Even if you want to go back further, before most of us were born, in regards to interracial marriage, it was the same thing. Religion, God didn't design us to be mixing like that. That was one of the bases of going against interracial marriage. The other one is using children. The other one is generally using children. If you can convince people that individuals are promoting a policy or a lifestyle that is harmful to children, you'll automatically get sympathy because we all care about children. So you hear that in political conversations all the time. Well, that side is doing something to children because everybody can rally behind protecting children. This child shouldn't read this book. This child shouldn't have access to that person. This child shouldn't play that video game. You have to convince people that the opposition is hurting kids. You'll hear that all over political conversations. People are still talking about Epstein because he was harming younger people. Use it to hurt a candidate. Bring up something that he did to kids. Going back to the box, as always, program is forever will remain MAGA friendly. We don't block, ban, or censor anyone. Understand that when you come in the box, you're not going to get your time limited. If you enjoy civilized dialogue, both sides of the aisle, without any worry of the host trying to limit your time or censor what you have to say, follow the program. You're in the right place. Appreciate you folks being here. Clinton Walston. Good afternoon, Clinton. Republicans judge everybody, and you're not supposed to judge. Only God can fudge. Trump's a child? Wow, that's a mouthful. Clinton, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, brother.
Good to hear from you.
Good to hear you. This country was based on Christianity.
Right.
And I talked to some liberals a while ago on TikTok, and I've never in my life talked to people who was more brain dead, not because they were liberals. They were saying that cornfields grow themselves. They said chili grows on trees. Power comes from the ground. Is this what this generation's coming to?
Wait. They said corn. Give me those statements again. That's some wild shit. Let me hear it again.
I live in Northeast Alabama. Okay. The only thing you're going to see up here is mountains, lakes, chicken houses, cattle farms, cornfields, soybean fields, wheat fields, stuff like that.
All right.
They said that crops grow in the woods. And I said, okay, how do you explain that a farmer goes out, plants the crop, grows the crop, picks the crop, sells the crop, and makes profit? They said that the fields grow themselves. I said, okay, how do you explain a can of chili? They said chili grows on trees.
Well, you were obviously talking to somebody who was not very astute in farming science, but understand that whoever you were talking to or whatever group you were speaking to, that does not represent all liberals. You just happen to have somebody that did not know a lot about. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, they were talking about people who was registered Democrats, and I'll get back on religion in a sec, but they were talking about one lady gathered $3,800 a month for not working because she was a registered Democrat. To me, that's buying votes.
that's probably a lie. That's probably not true. She's getting $3,800 a month simply for registering Democrat. One vote ain't worth that kind of money. It's one freaking vote. Unless you live in a county with 10 people, it's not worth paying that much money for somebody for one vote.
Well, I want to praise you for that red hat because we got to make America good, great again. I mean, when I was a young man, I remember in Northeast Alabama, my granny and grandparents would carry us to church. We would walk it literally like a mile and a half, 2 miles on feet, on road, dirt road to the church and walk back.
Would that be considered as child abuse in modern days?
They need more of it if it is.
Right.
But,
Oh, okay. Keep going.
And I was telling them my son had turned 15 yesterday, and he, as a young man, ever since he was the age of 13, he worked for his grandfather in sheetrock business. And he owns 2 trucks he paid for by his hard work. He owns a boat. He owns, for a 14-year-old man, just turned 15, young man, he has done very, very well for himself. And kids these days need more of that. There's too much sitting around playing video games. There's too much, Mama, Daddy, get this, I want that. We need to go back to like 1960, 1970, 1980.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Hold on a second. Clinton, you're talking to a black man. You think 1960 sounds good to me?
Well, you know what I'm saying, brother.
No, I don't. That's why I'm asking you. No, I don't. You think? Let me ask you an honest question. Do you think 1960 Alabama would be favorable for me?
No, I'm talking about the way their families raise their children.
Okay. All right. Just want to ask that because I often get folks asking when was America great and things like that, and I just want to point out we can talk about the past and there are good aspects to the past, but it is dark and scary for some of us as well. In 1960s, 1960s is not very desirable.
I mean, I'm a Caucasian American. I grew up in the South. I have black friends. I got Hispanic friends. I've got some Asian friends. But the thing about it is, I don't look at color. I look at what's inside a person. That's what God taught everybody. Don't look what's on the outside of that person. Look what's on the inside of that person.
Well, so let me ask you this in regards to God teaching us to look at people for their character as opposed to color. Do you think America would be better off as a more strongly religious-based country or, far looser from religion than, having a deeply devoted sense of religion? Do you think we should go back to being very religious?
I think when the country was stronger, it was more religious.
Yeah. So, but then I have to ask the question because I mentioned 1960s Alabama, for instance. Alabama was going to be far more devoted religious-wise in 1960 than it is in 2023. Yet even you're admitting it was not very friendly to a whole lot of people. Why did religion, when we were more devoted as a country to Jesus Christ and God, why were we so bad to so many people than we are now?
It's because there was a lot of discriminating people against the black people.
But weren't they religious?
Well, they claim to be religious. Let me explain this. A person can be religious in person and be the devil behind the wall, closed door.
You testify.
And I've seen that in politics. I've seen it in life. I mean, it's just like where I work at. I've been on and off with this work plant. I'm been a welder for years and years. Mm-hmm. It's run by, and I'm not throwing anybody's religion. I'm just saying that I work for holiness people, and their religion I don't agree with because the way they think a lot of them is they don't sin. Holiness people don't sin. Oh. And it says in the book, you die daily. If you reference sin to die, and it's sin. Yeah. And you know, these people don't give raises. They rub their money in all the workers' faces. They treat you like animals. They work you 12 hours
So,
a day.
but then I have to, when you say this, because I mean, obviously you support President Trump. You even gave me praise for the hat. How do you feel about?
Amen, brother.
How do you appreciate that? How do you feel about President Trump on video, as a man in his 70s, stating he has never asked God for forgiveness once in his life?
That's on him in Judgment Day. What we all do for ourselves. I believe in what he does for the country is right. Well, the direction he's going is right. But as you know, everybody, even me, you, our kids, our ancestors, everybody that's had a heartbeat in this world, that's took a breath, has to stand accountability beyond and for in front of God on Judgment Day. I can't account for your sins. You can't account for mine.
Right.
What you do is what you do.
But
That's what
but
God-
as it,
you know,
I mean, but when, if you got a man that is of elderly age that has never asked God for forgiveness, because you mentioned some people are actually, you know, saying they're religious when they're actually something else. Does that sound like the words of a devoted Christian, that I'm 70 and I've never asked God for forgiveness even once? When, as you pointed out, all throughout the teachings of God, it tells you you will sin. You're supposed to ask for forgiveness to get salvation. I mean, does that sound like something a true Christian would say?
It sounds like he needs to get his house in order to make.
He ain't got much mortgage left. He's 70-something years old. He better get the house in order pretty quick.
Bro. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. But, you know, I mean, I went to church for many years. And my now ex-wife, after, you know, we had an altercation, she went to jail for domestic violence. Okay. The domestic violence charge, I went on to church, took the kids to play practice. Okay.
Okay.
The thing about it was, after everything was said and done, only 2 people out of that church, 2 out of about 80, 90 people asked me if I needed anything. To me, what's wrong with this country, besides the great falling away, you know, you can sit here and say, honestly, anybody can say I'm a Christian.
Right.
You can act it, you can show it, but truly in heart, if you're not Christian, saved, born again, baptized, you're not.
So I got one more question that I have to ask you before I move it on. Do you believe, because you mentioned about you can say you're a Christian and no one, when you were going through that, even asked you, did you need anything? Do you feel the way we are currently treating immigrants trying to come into this country, do you think that that's in line with Christianity?
I'll tell you this much. I have no problem with anybody coming into this country legally. It's illegally that I have a problem with, because just like when I talked to the liberals a while ago, they said that we should give every immigrant a house, give them this. That's the problem with this country. They're worried about more people, and they can't take care of what they got. And the answer to your question is this. I'm sorry. Ask your question again.
No, I'm just saying, do you, in regards to the phrase, what would Jesus do? How do you think Jesus would respond to all of those folks begging for a better life in America at the border?
I think they should have to come in just like people in New York did. You know, they should come in on a ship. They swore into our laws, our language, to uphold the Constitution, and you know, they done good. They done good for themselves, and I have no problem with that. The problem I have with it is when they come in here and they just, you know, they don't want to speak English. They don't want to go by the American ways. There's no background checks. There's no nothing. I mean, should people go back in the 1900s, you know, the late 1800s when Irish and Poland and all these people was coming over here and coming to New York and swearing in and living by our laws? Should them people ask for reparation, or should them people ask to sue the United States government? Because they did it legally.
Well, I will tell you this. I will tell you this, Clinton. You're correct. They came in legally, and we treated them like shit too, though. You will agree to that, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
And yes, I mean, but you know, a lot of the like say a lot of Italian people, they came in New York. They made, you know, they wanted to make something of themselves. You know, these people coming in now, there's no background checks. And everybody knows the reason Joe Biden opened the border, period, point blank. There's a right way and a wrong way to do this. He opened the border to get them over here, to give them stuff in order to get votes, to stay in office.
I don't disagree with that.
See,
I don't disagree. I don't disagree that. Go ahead.
I've tried to help. I've tried to work with wanted somebody from the Alabama government to get with me, and I could get with the federal government. I have a solution to all this drugs coming in underground. I've got an ideal that would actually make the U.S. economy better.
I got to move it on, but I give you 30 seconds. Let me hear that idea.
Go from Texas to California, just like the Panama Canal. Dig it out, make trenches. That way salt water would crush any tunnels bringing drugs in from Mexico, and make ports in places where there's no ports now, which would create jobs. Every ship that came in from Russia or other countries, charge them $100,000 for coming through.
Wow. All right.
It shortens the trip down to the Panama Canal by 30, nearly 40 days. That saves gas. So they would pay that. Okay, they ain't going to float across and get across the border. They ain't going to take a boat, get over a wall and a big wide canal. So why not dig a canal, leave 10 feet on the Mexico side, and call it fair?
That's a take that I've never heard before. But Clinton, I do got to move it on. Appreciate it. This is our first time talking.
Yes, sir, brother.
Excellent. Come on back anytime, man. Appreciate it. I'm glad to have you here.
God bless you.
Absolutely.
2024, brother.
Good luck. Good luck. Now, I will go to the box. By the way, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 25,000. 500 plus of you in there. By the way, Crystal, always a pleasure. Thank you, Crystal, for that heart over the head. Thank you for that. I do appreciate that. You guys are tough in the comments. User said, make it the last time. Be nice to my guests. Or issue temporary work visa. Everyone is documented and taxed 25%. Here's what I've often said. Now, I don't see it the same way as my last caller in regards to securing the border. I do agree with him that liberals want folks over here because they turn in the votes. However, it's not just liberals. The right supports big business, and they want them over here because they turn into cheap labor. You want to stop what's going on at the border? It actually showed that you really give a damn of what's happening. Here's my humble opinion. You can tell me where to shove it if you don't agree. If you want to stop the influx of immigrants coming in from the border, the first thing you got to do is take away what they're coming for, which is a better life and to work. They're not coming for welfare, food stamps, and free health care. They're coming to work. There are a hell of a lot of Americans, hotels, farms, factories, meat packing plants that are giving these folks jobs and paying them under the table so they don't have to pay you and I what the labor laws suggest we should get. Yeah! Hit Griffith. Thank you for the hat and mustache. If you really gave a damn about the immigration problem, you would go after the co-conspirators. You can build a wall that's 100 foot high. It ain't gonna mean shit if the Americans are doing what they can to get these people in so that they can have them working for $3 an hour. If you started arresting and jailing American businessmen like Tyson Foods and some of these companies that have a history of hiring illegals and not paying U.S. labor law salaries to actual Americans, and put them on TV like you do MS-13 or some illegal that's committing a crime, the message would get out to American businessmen. This is not a cash cow anymore. If I get caught hiring illegals, they're going to throw me in jail. You should lose your business license for a period of at least 5 years if you are caught hiring an immigrant and paying them under the table. Trump is probably one of the most passionate individuals about controlling the border, and I don't see him suggesting at all that we punish Americans who are actual co-conspirators in the whole problem. When they catch the immigrants, oftentimes they got resumes and applications and actual addresses to places they are going to work. They don't have welfare applications on them. They're not coming here for Obamacare. They're coming here to work. What I would do is the minute I catch someone with some sort of address or company or resume on them or where they're going, they already got a job lined up in Minnesota, Milwaukee, or some other town. You work for me now. I'll help you get residency, but you now work for me. We're going to put you in a damn van. You're going to go in there with a wire. You're going to tell the manager you don't have credentials, but you're willing to work for cheap. The moment you can get on tape that he actually knows you're here illegally, but he's going to hire you anyway, you come back out to the van and you're done. We're going to shut down that whole place, put it all over the news, and we're going to throw the guy who hired you in jail. Once that gets out, there will not be jobs that they can work under the table. Then next, you can, if you want, you can bring back jobs from China and actually put them in Mexico and make the southern border a better place for them to live to begin with. But as long as you keep ignoring the Americans that are co-conspirators in the problem is not going to go away. It's like trying to stop drugs without going after the drug dealers. They're the ones that are giving them the incentive to come here. Same thing with fentanyl. We can bitch about fentanyl all we want. There's a huge demand by Americans for fentanyl. They're not just bringing the stuff here for no reason at all. People here want it. So it's about time we quit suggesting that all of these problems are being implemented by the immigrants themselves. There's a hell of a lot of American co-conspirators that we're ignoring in this. Going back to the box. Appreciate you folks tapping the screen. Get your boy up to 30,000. Electric Wolf, 45. Good afternoon. We're talking about religion, obviously in regards to the Palestinian Israeli conflict. Would America be a more harmonious country, live more in harmony if we had less religion in this country? What say you, Wolf?
I don't believe so. I think we're pretty tolerant of everybody's religion and whether you want to or not.
You think so? You think America is fairly tolerant?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we don't. I mean, like when Muslims come in and then they want to practice Islam or whatever whatever their religion is, we're okay as long as you don't try to break the Constitution with your religion.
So let me ask you this: Are you Christian? Are you Christian?
Oh, I try to be Christian. I mean,
I'm
raised a Catholic. But I'm not a big churchgoer.
All right. So how do you respond? How do you respond when a Jehovah's Witness knocks on your door? Are you friendly? Do you open the door? Do you talk to him?
Oh no, yeah. I'm good with them. I mean, sometimes we answer the door, sometimes we don't. But I mean, hey, how are you? No, we don't have the time today, and we're not interested or whatever. But I mean, I'm not interested in that religion.
Okay. All right, but
they're free to believe what they want to believe.
But you do see America as tolerant of most other religions. The religions get along in harmony.
Yeah, we try. I think the issue is people that want to demonize Christianity and they just can't leave them alone. They don't leave us alone. I mean, atheists. I mean, if you want to be an atheist, be an atheist. Don't believe in God. That's okay. That's up to you. That's between you and your non-God.
But when you say they won't leave Christians alone, but folks are suggesting that a woman should not have a right to choose because that's a sin by God, isn't that the Christian not leaving the woman alone? Same thing with the same-sex marriage. Folks don't believe two men or two women should be able to get married because it's a sin before God. Isn't that Christians messing with the gay community?
No, but they can believe that. I mean, it's okay if their religion is telling them, or they believe that their religion doesn't believe in homosexuality. That's okay. It's okay for people.
Wait a minute, Wolf. If the actual law is being passed to prevent them from being married, which is what has happened throughout most of America's history, and the Christians the laws are Christian based. So you're preventing two same-sex people from getting married because your God says it's wrong. Isn't that Christians imposing their will on the people?
Well, they're trying to, but that already passed. It's already federal where anybody can marry, right?
Yeah, but it's 2015, Wolf. The country's been around since the 1700s.
We still have a lot to go.
Yeah,
everybody grows.
Right.
Everybody evolves.
Right, but think about what you just said, because you stated people won't leave Christians alone, but you're admitting it is the Christians for the most of America's history that has been imposing their will on the people. It is the Christians that wouldn't leave people alone.
But the Christians have have turned around and been more tolerant of everything, right?
In what, 8 years?
I mean,
But when did this happen? About 8 years ago?
We're not starting a jihad. I mean, I've known a lot of Christians and Catholics that have had gay people in their family, and they've had no issue with it. I mean, they might be bothered on the inside, but that's between them. I mean, that's that. But the thing is the Christian is always a go-to pick on religion, because liberals don't have any balls and they don't want to go after Islam. God forbid you go after Islam, because then you guys are a bunch of pussies and you back out. You never pick on Islam. You never pick on Judaism. You always want to pick on Christianity. And the thing is because we're the tolerant, we're the turn the other cheek religion and all that stuff. And they like to talk shit about us.
Wait. When you said Christianity is the turn your other cheek religion, when did Christians in this country become known as the turn your other cheek religion? When did that happen?
We started a whole country for it, for freedom of religion.
You believe the founding fathers were open to other religions?
They were open to freedom of religion, to worship, yes.
You believe
Look at
that?
this country. This country just had a bunch of people, a bunch of Muslim people thinking, marching for they were pro-slaughtering of Israelites, and they're all for it, and people are like, yeah, good job. I mean, how more tolerant do you want this country to be?
Well,
Jesus Christ.
I mean, I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna give it to you from a racial aspect. You do realize that when slaves were brought into this country, coming from Africa and the Ivory Coast and wherever the hell they came from, they were
sold from black people, yes.
Yeah, they were not Christians. Christianity was beaten into them. You see that as turning the other cheek or beating the other cheek?
That part. Yeah, that part, it was, I mean, they were trying to force people into the religion, and I understand it was wrong and stuff, but again, we've grown and we've shown that, hey, you want to believe, believe. If you don't want to believe, don't believe. That's on you. But then again, don't turn around and say, oh, well, it's because like they start their own religions. Feel free. I mean, that's their deal. But the thing is, why do you have to bash the Christians, the real Christians, good Christians? I mean, I'm not talking about all the crazy ones that want to freaking beat your back and stuff like that.
How do you, let me ask you this. Governor Greg Abbott of Texas is currently trying to pass a law that the 10 Commandments must be prominently displayed in every school in Texas. Is that something a good Christian would do, or is that not turning the other cheek and shoving religion down the throat of school kids in Texas? How do you see it?
Well, I mean, I don't care if they do or don't.
That ain't what I'm asking you. I'm not asking you if you care. I'm not asking you. Wolf, I'm not asking you if you care or not. I'm asking you, is that a good Christian maneuver, or is that shoving Christianity down the throats of kids? I get you don't care, but you have to have an opinion on it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't mind. It doesn't bother me. I don't think he's doing something evil like putting up a devil worshiping statue. But again, we allowed that, didn't we?
What if he put up a LGBT flag? What if a governor wanted to have
It's not a religion. It's a cult, but it's not a religion.
What's the difference? What's the difference?
There's a big difference. There's no God in the LGBT. I hate to break it to you.
But give me what is the difference between a cult and a religion? I'm curious.
Well, a religion is just with a following, everything else. Cults, want you to, you're going to have to come to their side, or you're just going to have to die. That's my belief in
Well, but doesn't religion teach you that if you're not Christian, you're going to die eternally? Isn't it saying?
But it doesn't teach you to kill them. It doesn't teach you to kill them.
Yeah, but you.
It just says what's going to happen to them. Now, whether they believe it or not, that's up to them.
But doesn't religion teach you that if you don't follow these ways, a lot of really bad things are going to happen to you?
That's what some religions say, yeah.
What about Christianity?
Yeah, it does. That does too.
So how is that not? So give me the differences. Give me the difference between religion and a cult.
I think a cult is violent.
Have you read the Bible? People turning into piles of salt and bursting into flames. Snakes are telling people to eat apples. I mean, you don't see any violence in the Bible.
So now you believe the Bible? Now you're a believer in the Bible?
I was brought up Christian.
Look, that's a perfect example of where you pick on Christians only. I don't see you picking shit out of the Quran. I don't see you picking shit out of the Judaism book. I don't see. All you do is pick on Christian shit.
Let me tell you why. That's a good.
Apple of a snake, but you never pick on any other religion.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you why. Let me respond to that and tell you why. And that's a good point. Now, hold on, wait a minute. That's a good point. Let me tell you why. I don't know anything about the Quran or Judaism. Only thing I know, I was brought up Christian. So I'm going to tell you what I've read. I've read the Bible. I've been to church. I don't know enough about those religions to present a point that you're talking about.
Okay. Let me ask you. Okay, then let me ask you this. Okay, so you don't believe in God, right? You I'm not in the. I don't believe in everything that I read, but I do believe in a higher power. I'm just confused, and I'm willing to admit that because a lot of it doesn't make sense. So now, and that's valid. That's 100% complete valid, and I understand that. But now, why don't you go educate yourself on the Quran and make fun of them?
I'm not making
Why
fun.
Don't you go educate yourself on the other stuff.
Wolf. Well, let me clear something up. Criticizing Christianity, for instance, which is what I'm doing with you. That doesn't mean I'm making fun of it. I'm asking a talking snake. You may see that as making fun because it does sound scientifically impossible. Or taking a rib out of a guy and making a whole damn woman with it. It sounds funny because it's scientifically impossible.
Well, oh yeah, but you believe it's scientifically possible from a man to become a woman and a woman to become a man.
That's a good pushback. That is a good pushback. No, I don't believe that's really good though. That's really good. No, I don't. I can only say this. You got me with that one. I got to move it on though. That was really good.
I know. Yeah.
Come on back anytime, Wolf. You too. That was a good point. That was a really good point. How the hell could you question a talking snake, but you're okay with a man becoming a woman? Excellent point. All right, looking in the comment section. And by the way, folks, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 35,000 likes. I always make it clear. Your host is not perpetrating a know-it-all. I'm always willing to concede a point. Wolf, definitely a friend of the program. We disagree politically, but hey, he got me on that one. I love that. Looking in the comments, not scientific, just human, not a hater in religion. Fisherman, this is something I often push back when I'm debating with folks on the right, my beloved MAGA. You should be able to criticize something without being a hater. For instance, if you think that some things being done in this country are incorrect, you shouldn't be accused of being unpatriotic or hating your country. That doesn't resonate with free speech at all. And there's a hell of a lot of people that believe you shouldn't be able to criticize America. I talk about my MAGA folks don't believe you should be able to criticize Trump. And obviously religion doesn't believe you should have any criticisms of God or the religion. I'm not a fan of that. I believe if something is questionable to you, you should be able to speak out about it. That's where I was asking my last caller, what's the difference between religion and a cult? Because a cult is not going to let you voice criticisms. And a lot of times that appears in religion. Some would say it appears among Trump supporters as well, but I'll leave that up to you folks. Do appreciate you tapping the screen. Get your boy up to 35,000. I do appreciate that. Looking in the comments, Corey Hager said he wouldn't recognize a Muslim if they were dressed in regular clothes, but you know a Christian by the peach. I don't know where you're going with that, but I would sure like to know. You can't recognize a Christian in regular clothes either. I don't get that one, Corey. The Bible says, love thy neighbor, not drown them in the river, says Lil Lito. What's in the Bible can be confusing at times because folks believe that if you execute a criminal, God is okay with that. I mean, there's a whole lot of punishment that has been dealt out to human beings based on what's in the Bible. Isn't the Bible somewhat pro-slavery in some of its Psalms or some of its books? Like I stated, I'm not very religious at this point, so I am pleading ignorance here, but isn't the Bible pro-oppression of women? There are some things to question. in regards to the society we live in now, where that stuff is not cool. But doesn't the Bible favor some of that stuff? I don't know. My issue with religion, where I've kind of strayed away, is because the interpretation is so difficult. If 10 people read the book, they can have 10 totally different interpretations of it. And I believe if the Bible, the Quran, whatever you're reading, should be the blueprint to how you live your life, it shouldn't be that damn difficult to interpret. Most religious folks continue reading that book for their entire lives. And every time they read it, it has a different meaning. Shouldn't be like that. I think it should be similar to a legal document or a blueprint to building a structure or architectural documents. I could hand a guy in China the same architectural documents that I'm reading here in America. If we both build a structure, it should look the same. It should look the exact same. You're not choosing different building materials and things like that because the interpretation is solid. You know what it's calling for. The measurements are clear as day. When you read the Bible, it's not that clear. That's why everybody interprets it differently. And some people interpret it to mean maybe I'm more supreme than you, I know more than you, or I should live here and you shouldn't, or my lifestyle is right and yours is wrong. It shouldn't be that way. But that's my opinion. I understand a hell of a lot of you folks disagree. Looking in the comments, the Bible was changed 30,000 times from the original, says Mike Smith. That's also an interesting point because we have to realize the Bible, or better yet, the teachings of Jesus Christ would predate the invention of paper and pencil. So where were all of those words stored? I'm going to assume a book that thick was not written on the wall of a cave. So clearly there has been some shit added over the years. Remember the old experiment you may have played in school where you whisper something in somebody's ear and you guys whisper it around the classroom, and when the message is actually given by the last person, it is completely deviated from the original message? Well, if the Bible was passed down by word of mouth, that's a perfect example of that experiment. So you would have to assume there's a lot of misinterpretations over the years because, as we just stated, the Bible was created before there was a way to write down the actual teaching. So it has to be stored in people's heads, leaving all kinds of room for alterations, editing of the material, and all kinds of things. Looking in the comment section, curious to know why a black man would support a white supremacist cult buster. What leads you to believe yours truly, I'm the only black guy on the screen, what would lead you to believe yours truly supports a white supremacist? Give me the white supremacist you're suggesting, what makes them a white supremacist, and last but not least, what makes you believe I support them? Let me make it clear before I go back to the box. Folks often ask, why the hell would someone with the name The Handsome Liberal have a MAGA hat up behind them? I've said before a number of times on the program, I strongly believe Republicans, conservatives, and particularly MAGA do not get a fair shake in the media. Oftentimes when MAGA starts speaking, people start blocking, banning, and censoring. We don't do that here. Huge proponent of free speech. So the purpose of the hat, even though I typically lean left, is to let MAGA, Republicans, conservatives know this is a friendly MAGA environment. We're not going to block Bay. We've been doing this for over a year without a moderator. Going back to the box, we'll keep it moving with Sticka the Ruler. Maybe he can tell me about my love for white supremacists. Wow. Sticka, good afternoon.
What's going on? Stick the Ruler in the house.
Appreciate
hey,
that.
Handsome, man. Yo. Oh man, I don't.
Take your time. Take your time. Let me have it.
I don't want to call it a trap because I don't want to scare MAGA off. But I'll say this: you definitely let them spill and say what they gotta say, and get all of that conspiracy stuff off their chest. Now, in the process, for the people in the comments, with that, in the process, what ends up happening is a lot of stuff that they say ends up getting overturned and or what's the word I'm looking for? Disproven. Okay? It is untrue. Now,
But,
When he
but
come-
real
when he let you
quick, I
come
don't
in,
real quick. I'll let you continue, but I don't just let MAGA speak. I let liberals speak, and a lot of things that liberals says often get overturned too, such as some of our statements on COVID. I mean, some of the things we were saying was wrong as well. But go ahead.
And I would agree. And but at the same time, that beacon in the background, like I said, I'm not trying to scare nobody off.
Are you talking about my red light?
Again,
Are you talking about my red light?
yeah. Hey man, it's the beacon, man. Hey, my boy at the docks, he had a beacon. He threw it up in the air, and everybody came. You feel me?
Yeah.
So it's a beacon. It's some to some people, it's not the good beacon, but it's a beacon.
So let me ask you that. Let me ask you that. I'm in the hood getting my now I'm 6'6", 300 pounds, but hey, things happen. I'm in the hood getting my ass beat, and I throw my MAGA hat in the air. What's gonna happen?
I mean, from my understanding, it should be a whole bunch of people should come just like they did with my man at the dock.
I don't think that's how it works.
Hey, they had an episode where I forgot the guy. I don't know if his name is Dreyfus. I forget his name, but he has a show and he just throws on his MAGA hat. He gets pulled over by the cop. He put on his MAGA hat. The cop just like, oh, okay, sir, you have a good day.
Shit.
Right? So then he's at the coffee shop and he's in a hurry and he's trying to get his coffee and get gone, but he's like third or fourth in the line. He puts his MAGA hat on, everybody let him skip the line.
A black
Don't
man.
want no problem.
So you talking about MAGA
You
privilege?
see what I'm saying?
You talking about MAGA privilege?
Yeah. And it's not so much MAGA privilege. What it is nobody wants to deal with that. Nobody wants to go through the headache of trying to explain over and over and over. My man, if you do the research, you'll probably change your mind.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying about that. Like, if they do their research, if they actually open their eyes and not just listen to one man, then I think they would change their minds. But being that they listen to one man and they don't open their eyes and they don't do their research, the beacon is all that they have.
So you sound like you're painting a picture of a cult.
I mean, if that's what you want to call it, if that's what you want to define it as, or even if that's the definition, then that's a cult, my man. I mean, there's no way around it. There's nothing you can say about it. Again, it's facts, it's evidence, it's proof. It's like for right now, okay, the total blame on 94 indictment charges is on the DOJ and Joe Biden for weaponizing the DOJ.
Right.
Right? Versus the jury went in, the actual prosecutor presented the evidence. The jury said, oh man, we didn't know this was going on. You have all this evidence? And he says, yes, and I'd like to prosecute. So they say, you know what? Because we're the grand jury, we were selected just for this. We see that you have enough evidence to go forward in prosecution.
Well,
so this is the reason why Donald Trump is getting prosecuted.
Well, yeah, I do agree that's how it went down, but at the same time, he has to be actually convicted. Just because the grand jury saw enough evidence, that don't mean he might not beat the case. I want to ask you this though, because this is in line with the common phrase "fuck around and find out," or as us African Americans might say, "I wish a motherfucker would." But trigger warning said MAGA doesn't start shit. They're just glad when you do. So do you see MAGA as, for the most part, law-abiding and dormant, but they only respond when you actually mess with them first? Now, you're on mute, Stick. I'll give you a second. But I look in...
Yeah, I put on because I was just listening. I was listening.
So what say you?
But, okay, so with MAGA,
Right.
Only thing we can start with is their leader, okay? Now, you all the time make this known that Donald Trump, had he just came in and did his job and not basically piss people off, threaten people, whatever the case may be, the same stuff he's doing now. Mm-hmm. If he had not did that, he might have got a second term because on paper, he deserves a second term.
Right.
Am I correct with that?
I strongly believe that, yeah.
But he did not do that.
True.
Instead, Okay, how about this one? I'm gonna give it to them with their own party, right? Donald Trump says he's gonna run for president. As soon as Ron DeSanctimonious said he was gonna run for president, that was his nickname. And this is his own party. This is his own people. These are the same people that said 9 times out of 10, if they were to be president, they'd probably pardon him on federal charges.
Well, when it comes to Ron DeSantis, there's no denying that Ron DeSantis would not have been propelled to the gubernatorial position without the assistance of Trump. So Trump is looking at him like, I made you, why would I play you, in the words of Notorious B.I.G. And he's suggesting, why the hell would you run against me when I'm the only reason you became the man you are? If you got a person up to that level and they decided to run against you, I just have to ask, would you have a problem with that?
Well, my thing is this. From what I know, it's not just Ron DeSanctimonious running for president. There's a lot of other Republicans that also wagged and
yeah, but we're talking about Ron DeSantis right now. We can talk about them, but right now, in regards to Ron DeSantis, would you be upset if he took that path and you were the one that got him where he's at?
Okay, well, how about this? I don't know how many of those charges are actually federal charges.
Wait, you're talking about something else. I'm talking about Ron DeSantis. You brought up Ron DeSantis.
I know. Let me finish real quick. If I'm Donald Trump and there's the front runner after me is Ron DeSanctimonious, right? I done said all of this, and he's still saying, well, look, don't worry about it. If I become president, I'm gonna, all your federal charges, I'm gonna do what I can do. Your federal charges, I'm gonna pardon you. And my retort is, oh, I made you? Guess what? You showing me that I made you by saying I'm gonna pardon you because I owe you. That's basically what he's saying. He's not saying it out loud, but that's what that means. I owe you.
Well, he's playing to his base. He's playing to his base.
He's showing. Exactly. He's showing loyalty, right? That's what Trump respects. Loyalty.
No. If you show loyalty, you're not going to mess up my presidential run.
Yeah, but guess what? Your presidential run might not even exist if one of those charges go through. So this is a fail-safe plan. This is what people don't understand. This is a fail-safe plan. You pump up your next in line because I got a lot of baggage going on. Now, mind you, again, because of his mouth, he's not going to do that. But
I got to disagree. I got to disagree. If I'm out in public and I'm trying to holler at Halle Berry, I may have no chance in hell. In fact, I know I won't have no chance in hell. But the last thing I want to do, if you my buddy, is see you hollering at her too because you think I might not make it. Let me fail first. Before you start running game, let me actually fail.
But handsome, that's not how it goes. You know this. First of all, they're politicians. They're not going to do that. Second of all, you're not her husband. So guess what? She's free game for everybody. Right now, America has a president. Now, if you want to be the nominee, you got to do what you got to do to be the nominee. But at the same time, if you are a person that thinks logically, I got a lot of stuff going on. Let me back off. Even if I get convicted, I still have a get out of jail free card if this man gets elected.
Every Republican running for office is going to pardon Trump. Other than Chris Christie, they all would do it. What Ron DeSantis is offering ain't nothing special. I think Nikki Haley would pardon him. Tim Scott would pardon him. Just about all of them would pardon him. Ron DeSantis ain't offering nothing with that.
But guess what? With it, and I'm saying with Ron DeSantis, because that was the question on Ron DeSantis, I'm just saying, if he told me that and I'm facing all of these charges, I'm gonna use my head. I'm not gonna think like Trump. I'm not gonna move like Trump. I'm gonna say, you know what? I do need to step back and I do need to endorse somebody. If it ain't Ron DeSantis, it needs to be somebody. So all my votes can go to one of these guys, just like he would if he was saying, oh, the House. we're talking about it, but I want what's best for the Republican Party. So if you want what's best for the Republican Party, these are his words, then what you need to do is gracefully bow out, handle your business, hope and pray that one of the Republicans win and beat Joe Biden.
I don't think.
And get your pardon, my man.
Ron,
Get your pardon.
yeah, but Stick, I don't think over half of the Republican Party would disagree with what you said. They want Trump to run. They don't want him to do what you just suggested.
And that's stupidity, and that's why they're gonna lose.
All right. That sounds like a deplorables comment. But I do got to move it on. Appreciate you coming in.
Hey, once again, man, if they want somebody, they need to go ahead and holler at The Rock. The Rock will shut Donald Trump down. He will shut him up, tell him know his role, and play your position. He's not going to run up on The Rock. It is what it is. Try to get The Rock as y'all nominee.
Oh, my. You think The Rock is going to run as a Republican candidate?
Hell no.
All
I'm
right.
just saying.
All right. Gotta go. Appreciate it. Good talk.
All right, now.
Absolutely. And by the way, folks, speaking of folks entering the race, for some of you folks on the progressive side of the aisle, Sink from the Young Turks has announced he's going to primary Joe Biden. How many of you folks would pick Sink, C-E-N-K? I can't pronounce the last name, but Sink from the Young Turks. Very popular progressive program on YouTube, on social media. He is running for president, announced that today. I actually met the guy. I have pictures with him. If I was at my home studio, I would have it on the screen behind me. But I actually met him and Bernie Sanders about 6 years ago. But he is running. I see in the comments, my 3 kids says, F that guy. C-E-N-K, just put it in on Google, YouTube, any social media. I mean, he has a huge social media presence. He would probably be similar to Ben Shapiro of the right or something like that. I mean, he's a progressive, a strong progressive, not a Democrat. He is further left than, say, Joe Biden. And I'm talking to my MAGA folks, my beloved MAGA. For you folks who don't like Joe Biden, there's a whole world of politicians that are further left than Joe Biden. Joe Biden is not very far to the left. So Sink is further left than Joe Biden, but he has announced he is going to run for president. My guess is he'll get the backings of the likes of AOC, the Squad, Elizabeth Warren, certainly Bernie Sanders. He'll probably get a lot of that crowd. I don't know if the same love for Bernie Sanders exists for Sink. In fact, I don't think it does. But you will hear from him, because there's no shortage of liberals that are not happy with Joe Biden for a host of reasons. One being, in addition to his age and all that, the other one being he is not progressive enough. There's a lot of liberals that are not happy with Biden not being progressive enough. I get folks on the program all the time that want a more progressive candidate for the left. And Sink would be one of those. Anyhow, looking in the comments, the DNC will force him out like RFK. That's probably likely to happen, Cool T. I don't disagree with that. That could certainly happen. Dude, you're embarrassing yourself. He wasn't born in the USA. I'm not aware of that. I thought he was born in America. Okay, if not, I'll admit, I'll concede, but I believe he was born in America. Okay, all right, we'll look it up. He wants UBI, Universal Health. Looking more in the comments here. Sink's parents weren't born here. He can run. All right. Oh, we said Sink's parents were not born here. He can't run. Your ability to run for president in the United States, it's not in relation to your parents. Am I getting that right? If you're born on U.S. soil, you can run. If your parents are born elsewhere, because obviously Barack Obama's dad was not born in America. Yeah, I don't think the birth of your parents, I don't think that stops you from running. You guys give me a civics lesson. Maybe you guys are telling me something I've never heard of. As long as he was born here, that's what I'm thinking. I believe that Sink was born here. Yes, he can, but he will lose bigly. These days, you can be a Martian and run. I know that's MAGA. All right, let me go back to the box. You can be a Martian, still run for president. Big Country, good afternoon. Welcome to the program. I don't know what I just hit there. Let me see here. Further great. Okay, fair enough. We're asking about religion because of what's going on in the Middle East. You got the Palestinians and the Israelis going at it, but make no mistake about it, it's religious based. It's Jewish versus Muslim. Anybody that sides with the Jewish people are going to probably be Christian based. Anybody that sides with the Palestinians are probably going to be Muslim based. So I'm asking, further great, do you believe that America would be more harmonious if we got away from religion, live in harmony better? What say you?
I say that would be correct.
I've gotten a lot of pushback. You're the first person to actually say yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're the first person to
I think
say,
it'd be correct.
go ahead.
I can't believe that. I can't believe that. I'm sorry, HL. You know, I don't want to cut you off. Yeah, I can't believe I'm the first person to say yeah. I mean, you know, a lot of these, you know, we govern by this Constitution, and I think they knew something about separation of church and state. I mean, I think they was on to something.
Yeah, you know, when they say, well, I don't think they was on something. I think they said a bunch of shit they don't mean. To me, the founding fathers were similar to a relative. When they see you at a funeral, you've lost a loved one, and they say, you know, if you need something, give me a call. In reality, they don't really want you to call them. They're just saying something to make you feel better. And I think America has done that with statements like separation of church and state, all men are created equal, bring us your weary, your tired, your poor. They never meant that stuff. It sounded good. Appreciate that. Thank you there. I have to figure out who just sent that. But I think Johnny said that. Thank you. I don't believe America meant those phrases, because when they said separation of church and state, it appears that they stated that and then they opened up the Bible and started writing laws. We know all men are created equal didn't mean a damn thing back then. And certainly to say it would bring us your tired, your weary, your poor. I just think they said a bunch of stuff that sounds good, but they didn't actually mean it. I mean, do you see America as a country founded on separation of church and state?
No, and I agree with you, but I guess I was saying that in practice, if that's what they meant, then yeah, I'm for that. But I agree with you. That's not at all what we practice and what we have practiced. You know, I lean a little left, but one thing I do agree with the right said is don't tread on me. You know, I believe that in every sense of that saying. And
give me your interpretation of "don't tread on me." What does that mean to you?
I mean, it's freedom in every sense of the word. You freedom to be a boy, freedom to be a Martian, freedom to do all the drugs you want to do, freedom to whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I've told you before, like I say, legalize everything. You know, I'm into what I'm into. You know, if fentanyl was legal, I'm not going to be a customer because it's legal. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
that's just not my jam.
So you believe if you wanted to sell fentanyl, you should be legally allowed to do it?
Yeah.
Really?
Hey, Big Pharma does it. All they do is get fines. I mean, we
Yeah,
can't.
but don't
we can't
they at
slap people
least?
on one end.
Yeah, but don't they at least go out and become educated on what fentanyl actually is? I mean, most drug dealers ain't getting no education on what they selling.
Ignorance is bliss. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I hear the argument about it. You know, I hear people like, you know, do you ever hear this argument when people say, you know, what if little Jimmy gets a pill from Johnny? Well, if it was prescribed to Johnny, why the hell is Jimmy asking him for a pill? You know what I mean? That seems like that's on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, HL, whatever you take, I wouldn't take it because that was prescribed to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know if I can agree with you. I mean, that's a pretty wild plan you're talking about. I don't know. I don't believe you should just legalize everything. I think that in some cases our laws do go too far, but certainly when it comes to something like fentanyl, where it can kill people fairly easy, not even much of it. I mean, they're talking about enough fentanyl on the head of a pin can take people out. I mean, I don't think you should just legalize that. I mean,
I hear you.
Yeah.
So I would counter with this. Pews, if some say is a God-given right, in a matter of seconds, you could do the same thing to yourself or somebody else.
well,
So,
so,
I mean-
so let's talk about pew. So do you believe all pews, no matter what, should be legalized?
Yeah, why not? I mean, yeah, my thing is this: like, once the ketchup's out the bottle, who's gonna clean it up? Like, I think we're too far gone to try to put some regulation on it. You know what I mean? You know, with people, it's like with capitalism. Once that gap is grown between the have and have-nots, you can't make up that gap.
You know what I mean? Like it's just too far gone. It's just too far gone. You know what I mean? You got assault rifles or assault pews. What's the big jump to let me buy a tank? I mean, shit, it's capitalism. If you got the money, who the hell
Here's where the liberal in me comes out. The left side of me comes out. I think our society has far too many people, and you mentioned fentanyl and drugs too, but far too many people on anxiety meds, far too many people living in poverty, far too many diverse people, clashing cultures and things like that. I don't think that's the proper society to just flood with guns. There's far too many disagreements. Now, if we were all white and Christian and all believe the same shit, you could give everybody a gun. But when you got everybody arguing over this and that, and I believe it should be this way, I don't think you pour guns into that crowd. That's like seeing that's like going to a bar fight and saying, hold up, blowing a police whistle, hold up, and you hand everybody a .357 mag. All right, go ahead. What do you think's going to happen? So I don't think our society is conducive to handing everybody a gun. Go ahead.
And don't think I disagree with you. I'm simply just saying, like, we're past that point. You know what I mean? There's too many of them out there. That's all I'm saying. Like, I agree with you totally. But at what point do we have to be responsible for what we allowed to happen? You know what I mean? Like,
well,
that's where I'm at.
I disagree with the defeatist notion that, hey, it's too far, then we can do about it. There are countries where the population was heavily armed and they found a way to do something about it. You obviously never get America down to zero guns. I get that. But right now you're talking more guns in the country than people. You could change that. You could reduce the amount of firearms in this country, reduce the assets. If it was something we wanted to actually do, it could be done. It's just most people are saying what you're saying. Just throw your hands in the air, nothing can be done. And then as a result, it's getting easier and easier to find more and more firearms, but you could actually make a big dent in it if you actually tried.
But that's my thing. Like, a lot of things we talk about on this platform, whether it's immigration or, inequalities, until a majority has an appetite for that change, it will never happen.
True.
And I guess I'm going to the extreme just to prove, like, if you're kicking down the door and you want to say it's a God-given right and this and that, where does it stop? Like I said, where's the line?
But how could you're not the first person to say? Damn, thank you, Ginger. Thank you for that. Love the name, by the way. I'm a big fan of Gingers. But in regards to firearms, pew-pews being a God-given right, I've heard that at plenty of places, plenty of times. The crazy thing is, God predates the firearm. So, I mean, how could owning firearms be a God-given right when there were no firearms when God was around? I don't understand that.
Was he speaking of slingshots or, you know what I'm saying, or something like that? That's the only pew that might have been around.
The problem I have is that when you look at how God and Jesus, both entities they were about love. I don't think they would have been thinking about everybody at the Last Supper having a gat under the table. Like, they weren't about hurting each other.
But see, we kind of wrap this with what you started with. Just the fact that people say it's a God-given right. You know what I mean? A religion. So they're justifying it by religion. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's my bigger point. I don't want people to think that I'm all for it, but my point is, okay, I'm ready to sit back and see how far y'all willing to let this go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like I said, there's nothing you can tell them, we take certain rights from women and this and that, but when it comes to pews and other things, schools and transgender, that's the line. But when it comes to pews, no one wants to talk about it.
Ain't nobody gonna talk about pews in this country, but I do gotta move it on. And by the way, Mike DeSella, thank you for that TikTok, Kev. I prefer great. I don't, listen, I personally carry myself, but I'm probably more on the side of common sense gun laws. When I carry, it's basically a matter of, if you can't beat them, join them. I would prefer, after living in Australia and being over in New Zealand, I would prefer a lesser armed society because I saw how it operated. But in America, that's not going to happen, like you just pointed. There's no stomach to reducing firearms in this country. So if you can't beat them, you might as well carry, because that way you would at least have a fighting chance if somebody's shooting at you. Give you the last word.
And I agree with you, man. I usually don't read the comments, but if Patriot 1975, you allow him to come up, he said when they say God-given right, they don't mean God himself. So I'm naive, but when you say God or when you say duck, I'm assuming God means the guy that is in the Bible, and a duck is what quacks. So please explain to me unless I miss something.
All right.
Always, ATL, I appreciate you, man, and you got one of the best shows on here, no doubt.
Appreciate that. Keep it 100. Good talk. All right, looking in the comments, that's why we have that right. Yeah, wow, the name is Fuck You. I love it. I love it. And Fuck You says that's why we have that right. Listen, I get it. I get folks believe we have the right for this reason or that reason. At the end of the day, I view a firearm like an insurance policy. I've said this before on the show. Having a firearm is an insurance policy against people trying to harm you or your family. If you run out of meat and you need to hunt, it certainly makes that a hell of a lot easier. And obviously against tyranny or a foreign invasion, such as what just happened in Israel, for instance. It gives you some sort of a defense policy, an insurance policy against the things that I just named. However, just like with any insurance policy, there are costs that go along with it. Deductibles, out-of-pocket costs, premiums. What are the premiums, deductibles, and out-of-pocket costs of having a firearm as insurance? Schools being shot up where your kid is actually debating about wearing a bulletproof backpack. You got folks being shot up at gas stations and things like that. I do videos on ride share. Ride sharing is extremely dangerous in America. People get harmed all the time doing that shit. So the insurance of being able to carry a firearm to protect yourself is just all sorts of shootings going on in America. And by the way, it's no longer just thugs and criminals shooting people up. So a hell of a lot of stories on the news where you hear the reporter say that gun was purchased legally by the person that did that shit. They had no issues with the law before they went in that school or before they went to work or before they went postal. It's a lot of legal gun owners that are now using their firearm out of being depressed or whatever the case may be and popping people all over the place. Those are your premiums, deductibles, and out-of-pocket costs for the insurance policy of owning a firearm. In fact, it's gotten so bad with the actual deductibles and out-of-pocket costs that we're now using that as the sole reason to carry a firearm. It's because I might get popped at school or at church or at the supermarket. You're not expecting a thug to come in the supermarket and pop you while you're eating cereal. You're expecting some crazy folk. So the cost of having a firearm has risen significantly. And as I can't pronounce the name, the customer in the comments says a vicious cycle. Yeah, it really is. It really is. Because if you could go back to the 70s and 80s and hear about the things we're going to complain about today. A lot of fatherlessness, drug abuse is rampant, far more rampant than it used to be. Or we can talk about, whether you want to talk about religion not being in the home or kids not being raised because both parents are working 2 jobs, or people being on antidepressants and all types of anxiety medications. If you could tell somebody in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, that's what it's going to be like in 2023. And then ask them, does it make sense to introduce more firearms to that society, less firearms, or keep it as normal? I don't think anybody would say, damn, if it's like that in 2023, it makes sense to give everybody guns. I think it would be predictable that if you give that society all fire, they're going to be shooting each other up like crazy. Half of them ain't even mentally there. Would you give Joe Biden a gun? Talking to my MAGA folks. Going back to the box. Appreciate you folks holding on. TikToker. Appreciate that. We'll continue the program. We're talking about religion. Talking about religion. Do you believe religion is good for society in terms of harmony? Pews and high-speed internet. That's another one. TikToker, good afternoon.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. In the trenches here. Asking the question, looking at the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Do you believe religion is good for maintaining harmony in a society?
I do if you can get everybody to agree upon it. You know what I mean? There's nothing more powerful than when the collective group comes together and agrees upon something.
So one religion.
We have such
so
a diverse
you
country
you
backgrounds that I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, you would be talking about a society where everybody basically believes in the same religion, but like in a diverse society, like in Israel or even in America, where there's a bunch of different religions all living on the same landmass, that goes against sound like what you're saying.
Yep. And it's not possible.
Yeah.
It's and not with the diversity that we have, because we have too much thoughts, too many opinions. It's a good thing, but everybody's fighting for a spot.
But why don't religion, because everybody says religion teaches you peace and things, why doesn't religion teach you to get along with other religions as opposed to be suspicious of them? Apparently my caller just dropped. I don't know what happened there, but unfortunately, we'll keep it moving. I think it would be okay if everyone doesn't try to villainize other religions. Minnesota fan, and that's a good point. And I will say this. In regards to everybody trying to demonize other religions, earlier in the show I pointed out the fact that the Bible, Quran, whatever you're reading, is often difficult to interpret. Everybody interprets it differently. The fact is, a lot of folks villainize other religions because their book that they're reading leaves plenty of room to interpret it that way. Thou shalt have no other God before me. Could that be Allah, Buddha? Be aware of false prophets. Once again, could that be Allah, Buddha? You're telling the person that's reading your religion that they should be aware of false prophets and don't have any other God before you. So if I'm saying I believe in God and you're saying you believe in Allah, sounds like Allah's trying to be a God before my God. I think the book is written. Now, I'm not talking about the Quran because I don't know enough about it, but I would assume very similar logic is in that book as well. I've never read the Quran. I was brought up Christian, but I do believe the way a religion is taught, it leaves a ton of room. Why am I getting Arabic writing on the top of my TikTok? Why did that happen? Okay. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know where the algorithm is going, but I'm seeing I don't know what it is, but it looks like Farsi or something. It's Arabic writing. It's Arabic writing on the top of scrolling across the top of my TikTok. I don't know how that happened. The Quran is written and taught hate, says fuck you. You're saying that the Quran teaches hate and is written in that way. Well, in my opinion, so does the Bible. The Bible has passages. You think the LGBT community, if you read the Bible, you don't think it's somewhat hateful towards the LGBT community? Is the Bible oppressive towards women to some degree? Or some might say slaves and things. I mean, all of the books teach violence and hatred. There's certainly room to interpret it that way. Certainly the violent part, if you don't believe, like I talked about bursting into flames, turning into piles of salt, the Bible talks about doing some really violent shit to you if you don't commit your life to Christianity. It's pretty violent. Doesn't say I'm going to, put you across my knee and flog you a couple times. No, your ass going to explode if you don't follow this. It's pretty violent. Looking in the comments, what religion accepts the LGBTQ community? I don't think any of them does. What would have to happen, in my opinion, this is me totally speculating, but we have a lot of Christian religions. Lutheran, you have Baptist, you got Catholicism or whatever. It's a whole bunch of different religions. In my opinion, all of those religions were, because they're all considered Christian, they all believe in God. I believe it was just some individual that didn't like a part of it and branched off, was able to speak very well and created his own sect to it. I believe that's how it happened. The LGBT community would probably have had to do that. Branch off, you got your own little island where dudes like dudes or whatever, and you start teaching them that you can be a believer in Jesus and God is okay with it. That's how I believe it happened. Now, I may be wrong, but I believe that is how you got Mormons and all of these different sects of Christianity, where you had some community or some leader that did not like a certain part of it and just changed it to favor what they were in favor of. And because during that time, the world was not as small as it is now, you could be off to your own tribe and get away with it. And you could actually get away with it. And as a result, you got all of these different Christian religions that have little tiny changes to what you can and can't do. Somebody just thought this should be allowed here. I got a bunch of 15-year-olds. Not a lot of these women are living to be 20-year-olds. I should be able to date a 14, 15-year-old for the production of mankind, of course. And the Mormon religion or one of these religions decided we're going to allow that in our religion. I believe it happened that way. Now, I could be wrong. Anyhow, looking in the comments, you're missing a very important fact about this whole situation. Hawks fan, welcome to the program. I would love to hear what I am indeed missing. Hawks fan, good afternoon.
How's it going? How you doing?
Good to have you on. What am I missing?
Oh, I just had to be a little hyperbolic so you can pull me up in the chat, but for sure. But for sure.
Be sincere, okay? Don't do it just to get up, but I want to hear it. Go ahead.
No, I am serious. 100%, like, all the wars throughout history, it hasn't really been a lot of them. You can look at World War II, World War I, it's not fought over religion. You can look at this conflict now, it's a Middle Eastern region. The conflict, or not Middle Eastern, the region of the Middle East is an Islamic region. It wasn't until the 1950s and they did the Nakba where they displaced the native Palestinians out of their homes, and they've done terrible atrocities ever since then. So it has nothing to do with religion. If someone drove you out of your home, killed your family, let's back it up. So Gaza Strip, it's about 2 miles long, or 40 miles long.
It's 25 miles long, 25 miles long, 6 miles wide. But you're saying religion has nothing to do with what's going on over there?
No, they have walls. It's like an open air concentration camp. Any food that goes into Gaza, it gets checked at the checkpoints, all by Israeli government, IDF agents. Same with the water. There's rolling brownouts, 12 hours electricity every day. What's going on? It has nothing to do with religion. Those people are treated like animals. They call them goyim, cattle. If you ever read the Jews' religious book, the Talmud, you have a lot to say about Christianity. I would urge you to open up the Talmud and see what these Jewish people say about us non-Jews.
So you're basically saying that the Jewish people are just treating them like shit and they're fighting back.
Well, absolutely. Imagine your family was displaced. They sent bombs at your family. Not to mention, 50% of the population is children in Gaza. 50%. So a lot of these kids, they saw their older family, a lot of their relatives, they saw them get killed 10, 20 years ago, and now they're at the age and they're ready to fight. What do you think's going to happen? And they go, well, it's a problem with the religion. It's a problem with the politics in the area. It's not a problem with religion. Look at Saudi Arabia. They have the largest 2 mosques in the world.
So how do you
about to normalize ties?
How do you respond if what you're saying is true, or certainly what you believe? How do you respond to the United States immediately saying we stand with Israel?
It's disgusting. It literally proves if anyone has the slightest shadow of the doubt that the United States politicians, the elite, the corporations that rule over us here are not loyal to Israel before they are loyal to Americans, this should be your clue to wake up, because it's just more clear now than ever.
So out of this conflict, you actually believe it is indeed the Jewish people that are wrong and the Israelis are the ones that are being victimized?
Absolutely.
But
There's no way to spin it otherwise, if you're being honestly.
But do you support what they just did this weekend?
No. So me personally, I am an American. I'm a patriot. So I don't have any sort of affinity for the Palestinians. Okay. That's a very different angle than a lot of these people that you will talk to.
All right.
Have. Me, I don't have any affinity for these people. But when it comes down to it, people want to talk about the Jewish occupation of Palestine and all the awful things they do to us. What about all the awful things they do to our country? They blew up our sail ship. They killed our president. They took down the towers on September 11th with the dancing Israelis. Everyone in here should Google dancing Israelis.
Wait. You're saying the Jewish people committed the act on September 11th?
Mossad. So the FBI has found, look up, they held them for 41 days. Did you know the only people arrested as suspects on 9/11 were 5 Jewish men in New Jersey? The FBI held them for 41 days. Are you telling me that
bin Laden was wearing a yarmulke?
No. So the people on the planes
were Jewish.
Well, believe it or not, No. So, well, I wasn't on the plane, so I don't know. But when it comes down to it, they had the suspect Bin Laden before the towers even hit the ground. You know that? Before the towers hit the ground, Bin Laden was responsible.
You're the first person I've ever heard blame 9/11 on Jewish people. I've never heard that
I would
before.
urge you to look up Keith Wood's take on this. There's a FBI officer.
Let me just interrupt you folks. I want to, because I asked you about standing with Israel. I did a poll here that's going to expire in a couple of minutes. I want to see how many other folks. Question is, do you stand with Israel? So I want to see how that poll. But Jewish being responsible for 9/11. Where have you heard this from?
Well, so here's the thing. The FBI, they pull them over in New Jersey on the turnpike. Their car hits for explosives. They hold them for 41 days. They fail polygraph tests. One of the Mossad agents on record is saying, I can take down any building. He's found 6 months later in the same exact city these hijackers were found in Miami.
Why would the Jewish people do? Why would the Jewish people do this to the United States? One of their biggest allies in regards to all of the stuff they're going through. Why would they do this to us?
That's an amazing question. I was hoping you would ask that. So, time and time again, Bibi Netanyahu said Israel was amazing, or 9/11 was amazing for Israel. We went in there, and if you look at the clean break memo in 1997, which was drafted by Israeli Zionists, we went in there and we did exactly what they wanted to do. Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq. We crushed their enemies, just like what we're doing now. You see how the Jewish people have such an affinity for crushing these Arab people out of their region? That's what they're going to trick you guys to do right now. They're already tricking you to go to war with Iran. The same exact thing they're doing.
Hearing you speak, you paint the Jewish folks to be pretty bad people.
No. Just their elite that run the country. So, like, I love Jewish people. Like, I love everyone. Like, I think the Jewish guy at your bagel shop, he's not hurting anyone. He's not in on this. But when it comes down to the Jewish elite, the Mossad, the black, it's a mafia-style organization that runs your country is what it is. It's a mafia style. Are all the Italians responsible for the mafia? Absolutely not.
Right.
But it is a mafia style. It is ethnically, it would absolutely. It has nothing to do with random Jewish people, but
I've never heard this. It's interesting because I've never heard this before.
Politics. As someone you do a politics every day, I would urge you. There's ABC articles on this, NBC, Fox News. They all went into it. You can look up 15 years after the FOIA request. I would urge you to look into Keith Wood's work on this. The Dancing Israelis. Google Dancing Israelis. It is the most pivotal political issue in our nation's time, and I truly believe this is an American patriot. They're trying to trick you to send your sons and daughters to go to war. You should not. That should be the last thing we want to do. I think we should pass a rule. If you want to advocate for war here in America, you should have to either go fight yourself or send your sons and daughters, or you should have to shut up and go to jail. You should not be able to advocate for war with a foreign country if you're not willing to send your own children. It's disgusting the way that these Zionist people on the internet, like Ben Shapiro, are advocating for our sons and daughters to go over war to fight their wars when they're the aggressors. It's disgusting, and a lot of the times it's Christians going to fight other Christians. It's
all
disgusting.
right. I didn't, like I said, there's a lot of folks in the comments favorite what you said. I do got to move it on, but Hawks?
Yeah, Google Dancing Israelis.
Dancing Israelis.
That's Google the Dancing Israelis.
All right. Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming through. Dancing Israelis. I like to know. I like to I like to read interesting things. It's not something that I've ever heard or subscribed to, but I like to just see what's on it. I've followed everything from what was his name? The Sheriff Joe Arpaio saying that Obama was born in Kenya. I thought was ridiculous. I still believe it's ridiculous, but I listened to what he had to say. Mike Lindell, Cyber Symposium, suggested he could prove the election was stolen. I thought it was ridiculous. I still do, but I did follow and watch this Cyber Symposium. It's like 3 days worth of that shit. Looking in the comments, or better yet at the poll, do you stand with Israel? 58%. 58.33% of you said yes. 41.67% said no. What I should have asked is, do you believe Israel is the aggressor, or do you believe the Palestinians are victims? I should have phrased that differently. Nevertheless, that does show there's a lot of folks who do not stand with Israel. My humble opinion is that I do believe the Palestinians have been oppressed in that country. I mean, they've been. Speaking of this, Obama talked about it as well. For some reason, folks on the right side with the Jewish people, folks on the left are a bit more suspicious of them, because Obama also talked about the Jewish people wrongfully settling on Palestinian land and things like that. And he was accused of being anti-Israeli. But Trump gets in, and Trump was in favor of moving the embassy and doing things that were very pro-Israeli. And then Biden gets in, and he hasn't been as pro-Israel as Trump was. The right tends to favor Israel more. There's no denying that. The right tends to be more favorable of Israel than the left. But we'll talk about it. Anyhow, as always, you know this is indeed a Lunch Break Live. You didn't quite get me up to 50,000. I do appreciate the 45,000 likes. I didn't solicit it for quite a while. Nevertheless, you could be anywhere you want to be on TikTok, and it's always a pleasure having you here with me during these Lunch Break Lives. You know what we got to do. We don't block, ban, or censor anybody. The program is always MAGA friendly. Always is, always will be. See you guys tomorrow on the next live. Yes, have a good one. The folks tuning in on YouTube, I don't know if it's still even going, but I do appreciate you folks. I just wanted to come in and start to see what was going on.